Well, hello everyone. My name is Mighty Stream, and I want to go over your step one subheading unmanageability using the Narcotics Anonymous Step Working Guide. Hopefully, you have your flat books and are ready to go over these questions with me. This particular section, unmanageability, has, I think I counted 16 bullets. That's a lot of bullets, and we're not going to cover it all at once. I just want to remind you that this is about progress, right? Progress and not perfection. So we're going to at least cover a couple of them. We're on page 4 in the flat book. And the flat book is the step working guide. It's green and gold, but it's the paperback, right? Pretty large, and we call it a flat book just for short. Okay, so let's go ahead and get into the reading. Unmanageability. The first step asks us to admit two things. One, that we are powerless over our addiction, and two, that our lives have become unmanageable. Actually, we would be hard pressed to admit one and not the other. Our unmanageability is the outward evidence of our powerlessness. There are two general types of unmanageability: outward unmanageability, the kind that can be seen by others, and inner or personal unmanageability. Outward unmanageability is often identified by such things as arrests, job losses, and family problems. Some of our members have been incarcerated. Some have never been able to sustain any kind of relationship for more than a few months. Some of us have been cut off from our families, asked never again to contact. Inner or personal unmanageability is often identified by unhealthy or untrue belief systems about ourselves, the world we live in, and the people in our lives. We may believe we're worthless. We may believe that the world revolves around us, not just that it should, but that it does. We may believe that it isn't really our job to take care of ourselves. Someone else should do that. We may believe that the responsibilities the average person takes on as a matter of course are just too large a burden for us to bear. We may over or under react to events in our lives. Emotional volatility, emotional volatility, that means fluctuation, right, is often one of the most obvious ways in which we can identify personal unmanageability. So that was a powerful statement. Our up and down, back and forth, high one day with emotions and very low one day. As it was saying there, we underreact or maybe we overreact, right? So that's something to consider. I like that. Now let's look at unmanageability. You're going to write that on your paper, and we're going to look at the first question. So you would number this as 1. What does unmanageability mean to me? For me today, my unmanageability is more about the inner unmanageability. The personal unmanageability. It's not something that, unless you jump in my Jeep, you might see I'm unmanageable. I got the kids' change of outfits in the very back. I've got some groceries that are non-perishable that I need to bring in the house, but too lazy to do it. You might see some outward signs. You might see some of that. However, for me, what I get hung up on is more about the personal inner unmanageability. It has more to do with my emotions. The up and down, the mood swings, the trying to sort things out and end up ruminating on issues that I have no control over, that are very time consuming. So I noticed my unmanageability that way. My question is, what does it mean to you? What does your unmanageability mean? What does it mean? Or rather, what does the word unmanageability mean to you? I know what it means to me. It means for me that I'm spinning my wheels and wasting a lot of time thinking about stuff that I have no power or control. That is, in a sense, obsession, right? That is in a sense, obsession. For me, my unmanageability is highly emotional and it's inward, up and down, up and down. And I'm always trying to, I don't want to say flatline it, I'm always trying to balance before I interact with it. Because I know that when I'm excited about something, you can't get a word in edgewise. When I'm excited about something, you can't get a word in edgewise unless I take a breath that's longer than 2 seconds. Right? When I'm worked up about something, I go and I go quick. Right? Um, so I try to manage that within before it's expressed outside of myself. And you need to figure out how it looks for you. What does it mean to you, the word? The truest answer for me would be unmanageability means the inability to control moving pieces. Well, I'll say well. Okay. Now let's go to question number 2. This one is a little bit deeper. Question number 2 has 3 question marks. And so you should have question number 2A. Have I ever been arrested or had legal trouble as a result of my addiction? My answer is no. I have not. And it's open, it's a closed-ended question. So it's yes or no. Either you have or you haven't. And then 2B, have I ever done anything I could have been arrested for if only I was caught? Yes. That's another closed-ended question. 2B, my answer is yes. There are several things had I been arrested. Several things I'd done that I could have been arrested for it if I was caught, like drinking and driving. So much a part of my lifestyle was hitting the highway under the influence, having drank an hour's worth of coffee, trying to change the impact of the alcohol on my system. Never got caught, and I'm not sure what that's all about. I just know I never did. Okay. But I could have been arrested for sure. What have those things been? So I just answered for you. My 2C. So 2A for me is no. 2B for me is yes. And then my 2C is that I did a lot of drunk driving and was never caught, right? And then you have to write down what your answer is, whatever that is. It could be accosting, a prostitution. It could be drug deals. It could be domestic violence. It could be any number of things. But you want to make sure you list them here because it's going to lead you into the next question. And while we're talking about it, let me look at the time here. How about a couple more minutes to do another question? So let's go ahead and do another question. Now we're looking at not 2, we're looking at 3. We're underneath the section of unmanageability, and we're looking at page 5, and we're looking at question number 3. And question number 3, again, has 2 questions. So you're going to have a 3A and a 3B. So here it is. What trouble have I had at work or school because of my addiction? I got written up several times. For me, my 3A is got written up several times right before I got clean. I got written up several times and was under threat of being fired. I was being sent to an employee assistance program because I was always tardy on Mondays and would take these breaks that were not clocked, right? You're supposed to get 15 minutes every 4 hours, and I would be missing in action, saying I'm going to the restroom, not using my 15-minute break to go to the restroom, um, or using my 15-minute breaks to go to the vehicle to drink some more. And then I would take mini breaks to go to the bathroom and sip whatever I had in my gas station cup that time. Had gas station travel mugs that were gigantic, looked like almost a gallon of milk almost. So yeah, it caused me problems with my employment. I never was fired, but I was always under threat of being fired. So my 3A, that's my answer. 3B, what trouble have I had with my family as a result of my addiction? My mother and I bumped heads quite a few times. We bumped heads about my not keeping curfew, living in her house, grown, but still living in her house, doing what I wanted to do. Um, I'm sure, she knew that there was more to it. But at that time, I was living a double life. So I really wasn't presenting as a person as an addict to her. But she could see that there were some behaviors, outward signs of not keeping her rules and regulations for her house. And so that was causing me problems. And at the core of that, that was my addiction. At the core of that, that was my addiction. In high school, I was not a heavy drinker, but I was already, by the time I was in 11th grade, drinking on a pretty somewhat regular daily basis. And I really have never ever said that. So a lot of my behavioral issues with my mother were a direct result of being under the influence. Okay, so that's my answer. And then you have an answer. You have an answer. And that's what we're focusing on, right? What is your answer? You're going to list that under 3B. Let's go ahead and try to move into, let's take one or two more, okay? So this is question number 4 on page 5. Is the second bullet, but it is question number 4 under this section. And you want to make sure that you keep track of each dot that you see that is a bullet. And this is bullet number 4. And it has one question. What trouble have I had with my friends as a result of my addiction? That is a sketchy one, right? I argue with them a lot. I cross boundaries with their wannabe boyfriends a lot. I had a lot of jealousy. I wasn't the best friend to a lot of people. They thought I was their best friend. And I wanted to be. But if I was under the influence, all bets were off. Physical fights, none. I didn't get in any physical fights with my friends. Once I was using, I didn't get in any physical fights, but I crossed boundaries. I wasn't loyal. Crossed a lot of boundaries. Okay. And you need to answer truthfully your own answer to number 4. And I'll take one more question for today. Bullet number 5. Do I insist on having my own way? That would be 5A. And then 5B, what effect has my insistence had on my relationships? Do I insist on having my own way? I'm trying to go back and think about that. I don't think I ever, honestly, I don't think I ever was the type of person that was pushy about having to do things my way, not outwardly. I never insisted on having my own way. However, I would psychologically pull my energy away from a person if I saw opposition to my end game. I don't know if that makes sense to you. If people weren't falling in line with what I wanted, I would never make it about me being angry that I wasn't getting what I wanted. I would always make it sound spiritual. We just agreed to disagree. And I would pull off psychologically from them because I knew that they were not going to line up with what I wanted, and nor did I want to take the risk of exposing just how self-centered I was. I did not want to take that risk. I didn't want them to know my true self, right? So I indirectly may have insisted on having my own way, but I was highly passive aggressive. And then we are at 5B, right? The second part of that. What effect has my insistence had on my relationships? I would say, based on the answer that I just gave you, I would say it ended those relationships. They made them less enjoyable for me, less intriguing for me, less fruitful for me, less beneficial for me. And so inevitably, I would walk away and end the relationship. Okay. So we're going to pick up next time we come together. Maybe you'll have gone through all 16, right? That was 5. So there's 6. That was 5. So there's 11 more to do, right? I'm counting 11 more. And some of them, many of them will have at least an A and a B portion. I want to take you to this one right here, which would be 10, 11. This one would be 11 that I highlighted, right? Let me give you an example of what you're going to do if you're going to keep working on this. Do I ignore signs that something may be seriously wrong with my health or with my children, thinking things will work out somehow? Okay, so this is 11, question number 11. And it says describe. You would not say that is 11A and then 11B is the describe part. You would write down 11, yes or no. It's a closed-ended question, comma, and then go into the description. The only time I want you to do A or B, right, is when there's that many question marks. But when it says describe, you're going to say yes or no, comma, and then go into the description of that answer. Okay? And it's making the assumption that you're mostly going to say yes. Right? It's making the assumption because we're talking about unmanageability and it has a way of looking. So they're making the assumption that your answer is yes. And then if you say no, you still would write comma and then answer why you're saying no. Which is basically, I just never did that. I obsess over my health, so I didn't ignore health, right? Whatever your answer is, be authentic. Okay, I've enjoyed your company, and we will get back to this at a later date when I have a little bit more time. I hope that's been helpful to you, and I will talk to you soon.